Well, there's nothing like beating on a team that has nothing to play for to get your morale up, especially if you're one of the people who's feeling a little bit trepidatious about the future of this Toronto Raptors team that for a little while has been feeling like it's a little bit stuck in the mud. Scotty Barnes continues his streak of not cracking 20 points, but one player who seems to be very, very much back is RJ Barrett. Let's just be honest. The Toronto Raptors' best stretch of the season came when RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl were somewhat activated. RJ came out pretty much like average Joe and then hit a stride somewhere around game 6, and then it continued. Jakob Poeltl came out looking abysmal, and then there was a part of the season where he looked actually playable before he had to be shut down. That was the part of the season when I think the Raptors played their best basketball. And a lot of things were going right for the Raptors at that point. Scotty was still making threes. He started to sort of come around on that as well. The ball was humming, it was moving. RJ was playing this sort of like incredibly low usage but high impact role. He was participating defensively. Grady's been shooting blanks all season, so let's just not even talk about that. But Grady Dick, welcome back to the lineup. You are back in the rotation, Grady Dick. Proceeds to pick up 3 fouls very, very quickly. But the Toronto Raptors do win by 30. They do win by 30 against an NBA team. And that's what I can say. The Toronto Raptors beat an NBA team by 30 points at home. Shout out to the home fans who got to see this one up close and personal. The Raptors had lost a bunch of games going into this one. So obviously, you get off the schneid a little bit. You put a little bit of distance between yourself and Orlando. But of course, Detroit is falling off a cliff right now. They were the Miami Heat actually just blew them out. If you look at the box score, you're like, oh, 11 points. That's not really a blowout. I think the Heat were up by 20 plus at one point, like 25. So the Heat absolutely mollywopped the Detroit Pistons. And I think a lot of questions right now as we edge into the into the closing quarter of the season is what really is at stake for the Raptors? What's the best possible outcome? And that's actually going to be the subject of tonight's members live right after this. So this live is probably going to end about an hour from now. Members live is going to be around 11 o'clock. I apologize. I've been doing a lot of stuff between pen dance and this, so I haven't had a complete chance to move all the video into that I want to do, but it's going to be one of those lives where there's a 3-minute timer and everything's going to be nice and succinct because I want to really break down what are the opportunities and what are the options for the Raptors and what should we as Raptor fans actually be rooting for right now. Should we be rooting for a first round, stomping of a credible opponent? Should we be kind of rooting for draft picks at this point? It's a little too late to tank. Sorry to the people who haven't mathematically figured that out yet. It's a little too late to be tanking for AJ DeBonsa, but might this be a place where the Raptors might be better off going 7th or 8th? Or is this maybe something where you want all the advantages you can get and you actually do believe in this team? Brandon Ingram continues to struggle, but he was a late decision in this game. There was apparently an illness, so that's obviously impacting his performance. Illnesses are not super easy to play through. The Raptors did not shoot well. Thankfully for them, the Mavericks shot worse. Let's take a look at this game. This was not an offensive masterclass, if you will. The Raptors do manage to put up 122 points on the board. This game was never really that close. It was never really in doubt. The Raptors won. I want to say the Raptors won every single quarter. They won the first quarter 36 to 29, and that is the most offensively potent quarter. They put up a whole bunch of points in garbage time as well. So shout outs to Gradey, shout outs to Garrett Temple and everyone who played in garbage time. The Raptors waited till the 4-minute mark. It was already a 20-plus point game to actually put in their third stringers, and I don't understand why that was. But, hey, man, the Raptors, they have a back-to-back coming up very, very soon. Hang on. Let me just take a look at the schedule real quick. So the Raptors have Houston, New Orleans, so 2 days from now. So Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to be Houston, New Orleans. And then on Friday, they have Phoenix. And then hopefully by Sunday, when they do go up against the Isaiah Stewart plus Jalen Duren plus, possibly Asar Thompson, Detroit Pistons, the Pistons are still catching their wind because the Pistons have looked really bad over the last, 3-4 games right now. But let's take a look at what happened in this game. And I think our conversation has to start with RJ Barrett, who very much within the flow of the offense was able to put up a very efficient 31 points. That counts as a season high. He also, in the process, ends up cracking 8,000 points on his career, just the eighth Canadian to do so. Very cool for RJ Barrett, especially when you consider all the awesome Canadians who have played in NBA history. That is a pretty cool accomplishment for RJ. And, Brandon Ingram didn't force it too much, but man, the offensive process is just so bad. There's lots of turnovers. There's 3 turnovers, 6 assists, six rebounds. But thankfully, he allowed himself to get off the ball a little bit, floated a little bit. But it just feels like when the Raptors are trying to get Ingram involved, they go completely outside their offense, and I just don't see why. You don't need to do this. He is a very good shooter. There's really no reason that you have to go so far outside of your own offensive principles to get him involved. He ends up with 11 points, most of which was self-generated against doubles, against triples, against contested, against the clock. The Raptors just do a really bad job of getting Ingram clean looks. I do agree that his playmaking was a lot better tonight. He found the open man. He found Scotty in the corner early in the first quarter. Gets his only 3 of the. He gets 1 of 2 threes. This is also back-to-back games where Scotty has had multiple threes. I mentioned it in the last game that Scotty Barnes had not had multiple threes for like over a month. I think we had to go back all the way to December, if I recall correctly. So, this is back-to-back games where Scotty is shooting really a lot better from 3. He looks a lot more comfortable taking that shot. I really liked a lot of Scotty's offensive process tonight. We'll talk about Scotty more in depth, but first let's talk about Jakob Poeltl as well, right? If there's a second standout in this game apart from Scotty and RJ, it's got to be Jakob Poeltl. Looking a lot better, getting very active, handsy, defensively, moving his feet a lot better, looking a little bit more mobile, getting on the glass, picking up 10 rebounds in just 30 minutes. That's good. Like overall, that's good. I still don't feel like he's all the way back yet, but plus 16 tonight in his 30 minutes, he definitely thoroughly outplayed, Dwight Powell and a lot of the bigs who came off the bench. But Daniel Gafford, I think, won the matchup overall, and Marvin Bagley got way behind the defense way too many times. Right? It's one of those things where it's like, if they had any competent guard play, you're probably in trouble in this game, right? But they don't. They don't have shooting. They don't have guard play. They shoot 17% from 3. They go 5 for 30. 5 for 30. Let me repeat that. 5 for 30 from 3. And that's how they lost this game. They lost this game because they couldn't hit a fucking shot. Klay Thompson comes in. He bricks everything. 2 for 10 from the field. That's a guy that they're paying to make these types of shots. Can you imagine how pissed off Raptor fans would be if we were paying Klay Thompson all this money to be super washed? Cooper Flag, struggled a lot tonight, but had some very impressive moves, including multiple, really dominant moves against Scotty Barnes. Scotty still doesn't look all the way back defensively, still playing on what Darko would probably call one leg. Immanuel Quickley, I hated this game for Immanuel Quickley so much. Like, just his process, the turnover, the carry, the forced shots, the looking off teammates. It's just bad. For a little while now, I've been very positive on Immanuel Quickley. I think he's been making a lot of positive strides. To me, this game was a departure from a lot of good things that he's been doing, and kind of like a reverse back to some of the stupider things he was doing earlier in the season. I did not like it. I hated this game for Immanuel Quickley. And the fact that the Raptors won, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care that he went 4 for 14. Nobody cares that he went 2 for 7 from 3. Nobody cares, that he was predictably siphoning the offense and missing, open cutters left, right, and center. Nobody cares about the carry. Fine. Okay. But against better teams, this is the type of point guard play that is going to absolutely decimate you. Jamal Shed, another very quiet performance off the bench. I think he made a positive impact defensively at times. He was a +8 in his 14 minutes, but clearly the leash is shortening a little bit for him. And one guy who the leash is not shortening for is Jacoby Walter. And he provided a lot of punch. Even though his shot was not going in, he ends up 4 for 11 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3, has a powerful jam in garbage time. I don't know. Jacoby is very, up and down right now, unfortunately. You were hoping by year 2 you would see some semblance of consistency, but I'm hoping that at some point it clicks, because with young players, you just never know. Maybe they're 21, maybe they're 22, maybe they're 23, maybe they're 24, but sometime before the age of 25, there's always a chance that something just clicks. They find a rhythm, they understand their game, they understand how to get it off, They understand, this is where I get my shots, this is where I don't get my shots. And I think Jacoby's still trying to figure all that out. He's still a tenacious, active defender. He still gets on the glass. He still tries his best. And he had 4 assists tonight, which is pretty cool. Pretty great. That was one of the biggest weaknesses coming out of Baylor, right? That was something that people always criticize Jacoby, that he's not a great playmaker. And I think that will be the greatest challenge for the Raptors moving forward, is how do you turn him into a better ball handler, a better decision maker, a better creator, because he does have elements of it. He doesn't have the greatest punch. He doesn't have the greatest vertical pop. He doesn't have the greatest, like first step. It's not like he's shifting guys off the dribble and, beating guys downhill like Colin Sexton. He's not really able to do that, but he is a reasonably decent athlete. And I do think that the shot coming along is going to open up a lot of space for him. And nice to see Sandro Mamukelashvili put together back-to-back games where he was good, because there were a couple games there where he wasn't super great, and you were wondering if maybe things had just washed away for Mamu. Maybe there's some element of like, have teams just figured out how they use him, and they've kind of just figured out that, okay, we can shut this down if we take away XYZ. Nice to see Mamu get back on the good, like putting together back-to-back good games. Gradey Dick, again, like very mixed bag. Very mixed bag. He did hit a 3 in garbage time. Shout outs to him, which sort of saves the box score a little bit. Ends up cracking double digits for the first time in a long time. Ends up playing in the first quarter for the first time since February 22nd in this game. So, again, overall, there's like a lot of stuff that I could say about Gradey, but most importantly, I just think the defense is so bad. Like, he just got beat like he got beat like he stole something. Like that's just how I felt. Teams have just figured out that it's spread, pick and roll, attack Gradey, get past Gradey, beat Gradey in transition, cross match, hunt Gradey to death in transition. It just, the word is so obviously out, and there isn't enough defense around him with Colin Murray-Boyles out and Scotty Barnes limping to save him from himself. So he's going to have to foul a lot, and he fouled a lot. He had 3 personal fouls in, I think, his first 5 minutes on the court, 6 minutes on the court, and then managed to pick up no fouls from that point on. Not great, Gradey. Shit, man, not a great game, but overall, he kept plugging away at it. Got out in transition a couple times, made I wouldn't call it like a semi-transition layup through some contact, which was cool. Made that 3 late. So maybe this is the type of game, again, for a player who sometimes relies on momentum. I think this is a player who could. Troy Knight saying, I thought his defense was okay today. I did not. I did not. There's effort, and then there's execution. And Gradey has always shown me a tremendous effort on defense. Unfortunately, the execution is pretty bad. Okay. This is a good question. What is the ceiling for this Raptors team? I think we're going to have to talk about that in the members live, but I'll briefly touch on it as well in this live as well. So let's talk about Scotty Barnes. Well, okay, first let's talk briefly about this abysmal team, which is the Dallas Mavericks. Well, they did get into the paint at will. I mean, on the Raptors side, RJ Barrett also got into the paint at will. But yeah, like I think anything, they wanted, it was downhill attack from, either Cooper Flagg or Chris Middleton or Najee Marshall. And then there was almost always a big cutting behind the defense. And it was easy drop-off passes. The Raptors did not recover well. They didn't rebound necessarily great either. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like, this is a guy, Cooper Flagg, who's, he's gotten over 40 points in a season. So obviously holding into this type of performance is a step in the right direction. There just isn't a lot of space for him to work right now. And the Raptors win the possession battle. They were more efficient from the field. They were 11% more efficient from 3. They end up getting to the line more. They end up making 1 less free throw. They end up getting out rebounded, which is kind of my point, right? Like 13 offensive rebounds. They just weren't as physical. Scotty just hasn't been able to get unlocked as much. The Raptors somehow have 39 assists, which is truly a testament to their team first orientation. But honestly, I think some of those assists are kind of like fake assists. But 39 assists on 48 made field goals is great. The Raptors also managed to pile up 11 steals, which of course sparked their incredible fast break, which was 21-8. At one point, it was 18-0. 18-0. The Raptors had held the Mavericks, I think, through three and a half quarters, the Raptors had held the Mavericks to 0 fast break points. So their transition defense was on cue. Today, the Raptors led by as many as 32 points, end up in ending the game at 30. And they led for 97.8% of this game. So, yeah, this is a wire-to-wire ass whooping, if you've ever seen one. But let's talk about Scotty Barnes, okay? Because I think that's a subject that a lot of people want to talk about. Yes, 39 assists is absolutely insane. I agree. So there was a transitional lineup which featured Scotty, Mamu, and like 3 bench guys, right? And so it's Scotty in the bench, Scotty and 4 bench guys. And this lineup featured in the first half and also in the second half. And I really liked how this lineup played basketball. They were faster, they were moving the basketball, and Scotty got touches every single time down the stretch. Like, there was a single sequence, I want to say in the second quarter, where Scotty Barnes touched the ball on 7 straight plays actively, hunted for it, looked for it. Mamu would get the ball, Scotty would flash in the middle, present himself. Guys would come down in transition, Scotty would ask for it back. Scotty would bring the ball up, initiate the offense, get off the ball, get back on the ball, and finish the play or make the pass out. Every single possession that I'm referring to resulted in either a score or an absolutely clean shot from 3 from a good 3-point shooter. So we're not saying that Jakob Poeltl was launching threes. We're saying that Jacoby Walter was coming off a pin down and getting a 3, or Gradey was getting a 3, or Mamu was getting a 3. Unfortunately, if I recall correctly, all but one, if not all, of these threes missed. And I just kept seeing it over and over where Scotty generates a perfectly great look. It's on time, on target, and his teammates just miss. I cannot tell you how much better this team would be if Scotty had proper finishers around him. And I mean finishers at the rim, but also finishers from 3. I know the Raptors have been somewhat reluctant to put the ball in Scotty's hands because he sometimes has a high handle, but honestly, so does Ingram. So does RJ. And at least he doesn't pick up his dribble as often as Emmanuel Quickly. The Raptors don't have a perfect solution for offensive generation. They don't have a Jalen Brunson. They don't have a Luka Doncic. They don't even have a De'Aaron Fox. They don't have anyone of that offensive talent level where you could just give them the ball and get the hell out of the way. There's always going to be screens involved. There's always going to be some sort of off-ball action involved. And frankly, when the Raptors try to go into me versus the world mode, whether that be Scotty, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, or Brandon Ingram, in most cases, they suffer. And I think that it kind of behooves me that the Raptors so often go away from their best playmaker. It's kind of stupid, right? Uh, Sorry, what is going on here? This overly negative know-it-all Julia casual is proving to be insufferable. Julia's not insufferable, dude. Chill. Uh, Julia is a longtime Pensare Basketball member. Also, I just want to say, saying this on International Women's Day is absolutely insane. Red salute. But this I will say. Um, the Toronto Raptors need to find ways to involve Scotty Barnes, and Scotty Barnes needs to find ways to involve Scotty Barnes. I think it is very strange that this team will so often go 3, 4, 5, 6 possessions and just freeze out their best player. Now, I will say this, and I think that this is important. I think the Toronto Raptors are like a team that I built in NBA 2K. It's really stupid. Bear with me for a second, okay? There was this player, okay? I think his name was James McLeod. It was a created player that I had drafted in like 2028 or something. And I used to have this obsession of playing out like multi-seasons and trying to make the Raptors a dynasty because I'd never seen a Raptors dynasty in my life, and this was 2016. So I was playing out this multi-season thing, and like in 2027 or something, I drafted the first overall pick. I think his name was James McLeod. And so this guy is incredible. He's like an 85 overall with a 99 potential. He is a 6'9" wing, and quite frankly, is basically Scotty Barnes before Scotty Barnes. And over the year, next year, I develop him into a 99 overall player. He becomes the best player in the league. But he can't, for some fucking reason, he cannot average more than 20 points per game. And I was like, why is this 99 overall player averaging 13 rebounds, 8 assists, 19.7 points per game? What the hell? He's amazing. He shoots 64% from the field. He shoots 42% from three. He shoots 95% from the line. But for whatever reason, this guy never cracks 20 points per game. And then I looked at his shot attributes and his tendencies, and it said um, shot tendency 56. And I looked at every single other player on my team, and it was like 75, 80, 82. And I was like, oh man, that's why this guy doesn't get over 20 points per game. He just has a really low shot tendency. And that sounds stupid, but that's kind of like Scotty Barnes. There's so many plays tonight, so many sequences tonight where I think to myself, he can attack this. But for whatever reason, it goes to Ingram or it goes to RJ or it goes to Quickly. And I would understand if Scotty was shooting blanks from mid-range, if Scotty had no game to speak of, if Scotty was not the best passer on the court, if Scotty was not the best decision maker on the court, I would understand maybe, Scotty just stand in the corner and get out of the way. But at this point, the Raptors are kind of just hurting themselves because this is the one player who has the least amount of gravity in the corner. Him standing in the corner waiting for passes that will inevitably never come doesn't help anybody, especially not him. Because you're asking somebody who's not as talented at creating shots to create shots for him, as opposed to just putting the ball in his hands, knowing the teams cannot really double him, finding favorable matchups, organizing the offense in a way to hunt those matchups, and then collapsing the defense and creating clean looks out of it. Involving Scotty Barnes is a good idea. Okay. But for whatever reason, this team has decided that Scotty is going to take the fourth number of shots, like the fourth most shots on every single night. And I think that he seems too okay with it for my comfort level because, again, when he's on the court with these bench lineups, he seems to be very assertive. He seems to grab and go. He seems to grab the ball off the glass and push and transition, get to the teeth of the defense. He seems to want to invite more physicality. He seems to want to be more assertive. He seems to want a touch in the half court, even if it's not to take a shot, it's just to facilitate. Just getting on the ball, getting a touch. That is good. Your best player should get more touches than your fourth best player, which unfortunately the Raptors, that's not the case for the Raptors on most nights. On most nights, the Raptors' fourth best player is leading them in touches, or their third best player is leading them in touches. And I think that is predictably stupid. I don't get it personally. I don't think that it's right. And I don't think that it's helping. See, the most important thing is I don't think that it's helping. There were times, early in Scotty's career where I could have actually understood why he wasn't getting the ball as much as Siakam, even though from a long-term development perspective, I disagree with it. I could sort of understand that, okay, in the short term, I understand that Siakam is so much better at shot generation. But there's really nobody on this team who is so head and shoulders above him in terms of shot generation that I just don't see the point. Right. And look, long term, I'm kind of getting a pulse from Raptor fans right now that y'all are kind of bored of the season. Is that even fair to say? Like you're not impressed anymore until this team goes out and beats good teams. You're not really all that impressed, right? Beating the Mavericks, okay, cool. Beating the last 9 opponents that are out of the playoffs, okay, cool. But what happens when we get to the playoffs? What happens when we get to the playoffs and this little up and under bullshit that Emmanuel Quickly wants to do and the floaters that RJ Barrett wants to do get blocked into the third row? Well, now you're going to need your big dogs. Now you're going to need Scotty Barnes to hit turnaround jumpers. And you're not going to have an established rhythm of offense that actually features that. You're not going to have figured that out. So I actually think for the first time in a long time, and first time maybe ever, I'm really questioning Darko, frankly, right? And I'm questioning Darko's ability to rein in some of his more offensively disruptive players. I'm questioning his, player-friendly approach, which just sees enabling and empowering players to make decisions as, well, what about correcting bad decisions that are repetitive bad decisions over and over? It's not like I'm criticizing the offense and it's going perfectly. The Raptors offense has been sputtering for months now. And while I understand that putting the ball in Scotty's hands like he's LeBron James is not the answer. Featuring him more often, getting him more touches, getting him more shots should be a goal. What is this? I don't know. So let's look at the glass half full. Whoa, what is going on with my what is going on with words right now? Glap half full. Oh my god. Glass half full. So glass half full is that the Raptors already know that the version of this roster that they have right now doesn't work. And they've been looking to make a change for about a year and a half now. They will continue to want to make that change this offseason. Nothing has changed. I mean, I would assume that maybe, getting through a couple rounds of the playoffs might change their calculus a little bit, but I'm not even sure that that would completely do it. I think this team is pretty dead set on the type of basketball they want to play. But at the same time, are you maximizing the development reps for anybody at this point? I know CMB is out, so you can't really do anything about that. But Jacoby, Gradey, like in a lot of ways, you're sort of featuring 3 to 4 guys who may not even be here next year. So it's a little bit like the Raptors are kind of trapped into okay, pick a lane here. Are you developing and rebuilding or are you competing? Because if you're competing, I got bad news for you. You have no chance. If you're developing, well, then I would have to ask why your 24-year-old star player is getting frozen out of the offense for a guy that you're trying to trade next year. It's just a little bit weird. And I think a lot of this has to come on Scotty as well. It's not like he's just demanding the ball, and they're just freezing him out. They're very, very often he'll just float into a corner and just kind of, he'll get the ball and then he'll just throw it back to Ingram or throw it back to RJ, or throw it back to Quickly. I don't know why he doesn't feel comfortable taking over the offense when those guys are on the court, but to me, it's like, dude, you're Scotty Barnes. That's Emmanuel Quickly. There's a difference in y'all, and you should know it. That's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, that's fair. Scotty Barnes is definitely going to become, he's going to be the Raptors' best player in the playoffs. I can sight unseen, I can tell you that. Mineral, vitamin water, he's going to be in MVP talks. Not averaging 15 points per game. He's not. No, he's not. Look, I understand he's hurt. And so, but the defense hasn't looked so super good the last couple games either. Am I tripping? Scotty does not look great anywhere right now. The thing that he did great today was I think he had 3 shots where I could say, he was incredibly patient in the mid-range and was able to get a shot off, right? Julia VH 2237. I apologize for being insufferable as a Raps fan since the Skydome days. Thanks for your work, Rob. Oh, I wanna comment on this more deeply. Give me one sec. Double M Prod 1955 said, I think a coaching change would help Scotty with his shot attempts because I'm tired of seeing certain players hijack the offense. Well, this has been happening to Scotty for a very long time, my friend. Right. And at some point, you got one bad roommate. That's you. You got 2 bad roommates. Okay. This could just be bad luck. When you've had 7 bad roommates, I think the problem is basically you. So at this point, if Schroeder, froze you out, if Cade froze you out at Revered, you got frozen out at Florida State, you get frozen out. You get frozen out by Fred VanVleet. You get frozen out by Dennis Schroeder. You get frozen out by Emmanuel Quickly. I think this is just a matter of Scotty Barnes is a point guard, and they keep putting a point guard next to him, and he doesn't know what to do. That's kind of how I see it. He is a point forward, point guard. You need a less ball dominant player next to him. In theory, that player should have been Emmanuel Quickly. But then Darko Rajakovic had the bright idea of trying to turn Emmanuel Quickly into a point guard. So, that's kind of just where we're at right now. And when things are going well with Quickly, he's almost always off the ball. You can see his percentages just rise so much when he's not over dribbling the basketball. And today, I think he over dribbled the basketball a lot. If I'm being honest, I think he did. RB 61395 with a 279 super chat. You did not say anything, but thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now back to this. I apologize for being insufferable as a Raps fan since the Skydome days. Julia has since clarified this was sarcastic, which I guess is only adding fuel to the insufferable flame. I will say this. Man, political correctness is bothering the shit out of me right now. I want to talk about it at some point. It's just very annoying what has been happening the last week. I've genuinely felt like if you're a good person, you shouldn't sweat this shit too much. But man, oh man, people want you to be like very, very apologetic and contrite for shit you have no reason to apologize for. So I'm just latching on to this idea of like, I'm sorry, I apologize for being insufferable because somebody said you were insufferable. And it's just like, people tried to say that I was being insensitive the last week with the AI talk on the Raptors thing. Sorry, not on the Raptors thing, on the Pendants thing. And I'm just like, I apologize that people were hurt, but man, I am really struggling to see the backlash and the appropriate response to it. So it's been a little bit annoying. I was listening to an old podcast with one of my favorite directors, and he did it at Pendants 2019, and he was talking about Pedro Almodovar, talking about political correctness dictatorships at when he was chairing the jury at Cannes. I feel that that's kind of the world we're in right now. Um, M. Hufel. Rob, you spent $75 on a Starbucks coffee? Where does it say $75? Or are you being sarcastic? No, I do not buy Starbucks coffee. So this, believe it or not, fun story about this mug that I have been kind of brandishing for no reason whatsoever. Why am I giving Starbucks a free promo on the panel and on Pensare Basketball? It's kind of interesting. So this mug is a loaner gift from a friend of mine from a night about 2 years ago, I wanna say, or a year and a half ago, when I got super, 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 super drunk and needed a glass and needed water on the cab ride home. Yeah. I don't even know what the hell happened to me that night, man. I was at a friend's house, and they were drinking so much alcohol and so much sugar, and when you combine sugar and alcohol, you get very sick. So, yeah, I was not feeling very good, and then on top of it, combined weed after. Sorry for all the kids in the back. I did not know I was smoking weed. I was tricked into it. That's the excuse I've been using since I was 14 years old, and it will be used even though I am 36. I was 36 when it happened. But seriously, I thought the person was handing me something else, and yeah, I got stupidly like the whole world collapsed around me, and yeah, that's when my friend was this. Nick laughed, saying, "Pendants was a great time overall. Bummer we didn't cross paths. Hopefully next year." What did you see? What did you see at Pendants? I'm so curious now. Um, RB61395 with a 699 super chat. Thank you very much. Scotty Barnes' high IQ and focus on getting teammates involved sometimes makes him overthink instead of being assertive. He'll figure it out, no doubt. I really hope he figures it out because we are heading into, Scotty Barnes is no longer averaging 19 points per game when at least my thought was he comes into the season and averages 22. Now, a lot of people thought that he was going to take a little bit of a step back because of Ingram, but honestly, this hasn't been because of Ingram. This hasn't been because of Ingram. This has been because of, RJ and Emmanuel quickly. Like Ingram isn't exactly like dominating shot attempts here, right? Um, so I mean, isn't that a part of why people are a little bit kind of bored of this team? Because everyone kind of subconsciously, whether they want to admit it or not, we all kind of know that this team has one chance of actually being great, and it's if Scotty takes that next step. And watching him day after day after day kind of not take that next step, and now even watching the defense take a step back, it's been kind of, I don't know, it's been a little concerning. But that I will say this. I want to tease a little bit of the members live, and I want to talk about just what would be the potential options for the Raptors, right? As they head into this last little stretch here. I want to remind you that this is March 8th. The last game of the season is April 12th. So let me just check some fast math here. January, February, March. So March has 31 days. So that is 21 days, 33 days. We're a little over a month away from the playoffs right now. Just a little over a month. A little over a month before the Raptors go into New York and then come back home against Brooklyn for the final game of the season, a tune-up. At what point do we have to start hitting panic if the Raptors don't start playing a better brand of basketball? I think March 31st will be like the final day. Like if this is an airplane and this is a takeoff ramp, right? Ideally, you would launch right now. Ideally. Ideally, you would take a meaningful step towards playing your best basketball right now. But let's assume you don't. Let's assume you're not going to take the off ramp right now. Let's just say you're not ready to put that gear into effect. Okay. What is the latest you can do it? You got Houston, you got New Orleans, you got Phoenix, you got Detroit, you got Chicago, you got Denver, you got Phoenix, you got Utah, you got LA Clippers, Pelicans again, the Magic, and then the Pistons. I would say that stretch starting on the road at Chicago needs to be absolute high alert, red alert time for the Raptors. Absolutely. The right people need to start taking the right shots. People need to fall into their role. The rotation needs to be completely defined from my perspective. The rotation needs to be airtight and defined. There needs to be a clear pecking order within the offense. The popular sets need to be, or the pet sets need to be, cemented and ironclad. There needs to be a complete refinement in execution defensively. There needs to be a tighter leash for players who maybe aren't contributing defensively. And there needs to be a clear, concerted effort to put the best lineups on the floor from Darko Rajakovic. I do think that this team needs to start playing their best basketball starting March 18th. That's 10 days from now. That's 10 days from now. And that is when they need to start playing. That is let's call it the on-ramp. That is when you take your plane and you get onto the runway. Now you circle on the road until the Clippers. At this point, you are now running out of fuel if you do not take off. Your flight is just not going to, you're not going to have a successful flight. You're going to have to refuel if we continue to use this airplane analogy. You have then 3 more games, which is New Orleans, Orlando, and Detroit. And I think that these would present the absolute strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. If you go out and you get smacked in Detroit, you're just done. Like your season is not going to catch on. You don't have enough tune-up games left. There's always the chance that Miami and you are fighting for seeding right down the stretch. Ditto for New York. So you just don't want to be in a situation where you're not playing your best basketball by this stretch. Because once you start playing your best basketball, you need to establish rhythm as a different team, a different type of team. You need to establish some momentum going into the playoffs so that your players feel good about themselves, so that guys are healthy, well rested, and you definitely don't want to be having to play your starters 40 minutes a night against Miami and New York down the stretch to hold on to a playoff spot. So I think the Raptors, whatever that red alert is in their minds, it has to go off really, really soon. And it has to go off prior to that road trip against Chicago. Now, of course, the Raptors are a really good road team, and they have shown it all year. They might actually be a better road team than a home team. So I'm not really sweating them being on the road in the playoffs. Actually, I would kind of prefer it. But that being said, I don't care if you get home court or road on in terms of the playoffs. What I care is that you're playing your best basketball when you get there. That's it. Sahaj saying, Rob, which prospects this year would you like the Raptors draft? That is a subject for another video, my friend. Alexander B, 2911. 9-5 won't win you playoff games. Simple as that. Well, the last time RJ was in the playoffs, he was very good. The last time Emmanuel Quickly was in the playoffs, he was very bad. Let us hope that trend does not continue and that both of them are very, very good in the playoffs. Honestly, if we're being completely 100, I would really rather they be good than anyone be good on this team because those are the two guys that desperately need to be moved this offseason. So, uh, mineral, mineral vitamin water saying this year's draft is very interesting. My friend, that is an understatement. That is an understatement. This draft is incredible. And I think the Raptors will find value well into the late teens and 20s. I feel very good about this draft. So, this is where we're at. Let's take a look really quickly at the standings. And I think that the standings will tell the story of what do you want to happen for the Raptors. So, in terms of the standings, the Raptors, once 2 games out of number one, are now 9 games out of number one after tonight's win and are 5-5 over their last little stretch here. You know who else is 5-5 over the last little stretch? Detroit, who have lost 4 straight. But Detroit has such a comfortable lead on the Eastern Conference that it doesn't even matter. They've lost 4 straight and maintain a 2.5 game advantage over the Boston Celtics. So, what I wanted to devote tonight's members live to is basically mapping out all the outcomes. It's something that I'm pretty good at. I don't know. Maybe my brain is weird, but it's something that I'm really good at. So, I want to do a hierarchy of best case to worst case scenario for the Raptors. And I don't think it's going to be as cookie cutter as, well, best case is number one seed and championship. It's going to be realistic outcomes only. And I think that that's going to be a really, really cool live to kind of perspectivize what are we all even rooting for. Look, there's a lot of dread in Raptorland right now. I don't personally share in your dread. If you want to be sad and miserable, that's your calling. I would say life is short and probably should focus on something else. But there is a lot of dread around this team. I'm sensing it in other podcasters. I'm sensing it in the fan base. I'm sensing it in the comments that there's just like a lot of like resigned hopelessness with this team. I think that when you are feeling most hopeless, it is good to make a list. My mother taught me this. It is good to make a list. It is good to draw out the outcomes and draw out the targets and maybe just identify the targets. You're feeling hopeless because you might be confused by all the possibilities, and all the possibilities that you can see immediately seem really, really stupid and really bad. But maybe that's an emotional response. So I think that there is a positive end to this season for the Raptors that the Raptors should be aiming for. There are multiple positive ends to the season that the Raptors could be aiming for. Red Salute saying casuals are feeling dread. Yes, the casuals are feeling dread. More so because I think a lot of people just really need a reason to feel bad sometimes. And this just feels like a really, you know, again, like if I tell you that this team is better than they were last year, you'll call it cope. If I tell you that they're developing, you'll call it cope. If I tell you that they're a championship contender, you'll think I'm crazy and you'll unsubscribe. So there's really like it's a very middling team, right? But how many teams are middling right now? I mean, if you want to consider middling as anywhere from 3 to 6 in the conference, Houston, Minnesota, Denver, and Los Angeles, Miami, Toronto, Cleveland, New York. You know what Toronto has not in common with any of those teams? They're younger than all of them. Every one of those teams is older than the Raptors. So it's like it's not the worst thing in the world. I think what's really got Raptor fans down is CMB isn't playing. Gradey sucks right now. Jacoby's been stupidly inconsistent, and Scotty's offense has kind of fallen off a cliff. I think if I want to identify like the bullishness, bearishness, argument or fan interest sentiment around this team, I would almost always harken it back to everybody knows this isn't a title contender, but when Scotty plays well, when Gradey plays well, when Jacoby plays well, when CMB plays well, there is at least hope that this could become one. And when those guys are either not playing or just do not play well, I think that hope is dashed. And that's what makes people really upset. So, the next time you see Emmanuel quickly on the street, just let him know that he's breaking a lot of Raptor fans' hearts. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Just be nice. Don't be weird. Just say hi. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how dreadfulness when the consensus was for us to take 36 to 40 wins before the season. Dude, 40 wins would have made you a lot of money. The Raptors over under according to Vegas in the summer, was 36.5. It moves up to 37.5, moves up to 39.5. So the consensus was the Raptors would not win 40 games. They currently have over a month left in the season. They've already won 36. Like, okay, they're 9 games above 500. People thought they would be at best 3 games below 500. Again, it could all fall apart a lot for the Raptors. I just don't see a world in which this team gets less than 44 wins. And 44 wins should be considered a monumental success. This is not just, oh, the Raptors beat up on all the bad teams. They beat a lot of mediocre teams as well along the way. They beat a couple of decent teams as well. Maybe they're not beating the top teams, but hey, man, you have plenty of chances to do that coming up, right? You're going to have a chance to test yourself against Detroit. You're going to have a chance to test yourself against Houston. You're going to have a chance to test yourself against Detroit again. You're going to have Boston, Miami, New York. You know, you got Denver. Like, you've got 6, 7 tests left, right? And I think you just have to make the most of those because, again, a good team wants to play good teams. A good team gets excited about playing against good teams. A good team wants to measure themselves against good teams. Bad teams consistently, you know, they get up for these stupid games against Dallas. And I'm not saying you should go out and lay an egg against Dallas, but this definitely, as a team, should not be the game that you're excited about. A hapless, hopeless, out of the playoff picture Dallas Mavericks team that has no chance really coming into the road, a young team, obviously all the distractions in the world in Toronto. That team probably didn't get a wink of sleep last night. So again, I'm not trying to diminish beating a professional basketball team by 30. Obviously, we'd all be sitting here crashing out if they lost to this team by 2. But that being said, I think the measurements will come over the next few weeks. March 10th, Houston. March 13th, Phoenix. March 15th, Detroit. That 1, 2, 3, those are your test games. Those are your games where I really believe that you need to get these guys that you want to be building around. I think you need to get them firing on the right page. You need to get some sort of chemistry. I still believe after 2.5 years of playing together that Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly don't have the greatest on-court chemistry. Hey, man, sometimes it just doesn't work, right? And then it's just like sometimes it's a personality jam. Sometimes it's a play style clash. With Scotty and, IQ, I just can't figure it out. I just can't figure out why it almost always feels like they're in each other's way. I don't get that. It seems like they like each other a lot. It seems like, they're friendly with each other. It seems like both are really great guys. Seems like, at least in theory, their play styles and player types should be complementary to each other. But again, it's just like, Quigley, man, we leave Quigley for the Quigley is a horrible contract. Pirtle is a bad contract. So that's interesting. So you identify Quigley as a horrible contract and Pirtle as a bad contract. I would say those are backwards. I'd say those are backwards. Also, it's worth noting in today's game that Trey Jackson-Davis was injured. Got injured in the pregame, hurt his finger. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I really wish that the Raptors would give him a little bit more of an opportunity. I've been saying this for like a month now. But since he's been traded here, apart from that first game, he really has had very limited burn with this team. And he was so impressive in his first game. I just don't understand why he can't get more of touch, because it would provide a significant upgrade over your defense. I'm just telling you, man, like, yeah, finger dislocation. Was it a complete dislocation or is it a jam? If it's a complete dislocation, shit, that could be a few weeks. I'm pretty sure that could be a few weeks. Why would Kyrie come back when the Mavs could have DeBonsa or Boozer next year, next fall? Whew. IQ is great off ball, and he will look better when RJ is gone. He still picks up his dribble way too often. He still doesn't process the court. He still releases the ball way too low. He's still kind of a mid defender. I think you're giving up a lot, man. I think you're giving up a lot. Forget the 32 million for a second. Just focus on the player type. I understand that you're so starved for shooting that you're just like, how could you possibly be maligning or complaining about like the best shooter on the roster? But like, for real, like, there are plenty of guards who shoot well in the league, right? Most of them don't make $32 million. Most of them don't pick up their dribble every single time they beat their man. Most of them are a little bit better at processing the court than Immanuel Quickley. And again, there's just like there's a limit to development. There's a limit to development reps. I've always believed the players can get better, but they have to want to get better and they have to be open to it. Like from what I hear, Immanuel Quickley, one of the hardest workers in Raptors history, always in the gym, always working on his craft, super intentional with the work, prides himself on his work. So it's just like at this point, it's like, okay, well, work ethic ain't the issue. It might just be, a processing thing, right? Oh, for sure, he is a difference maker. Emmanuel Quickley is a difference maker. So is Grady Dick. But I think, you know, it's so weird. The Raptors are definitely better with these two on the court, right? Like they're definitely better because everybody on this team, from RJ to Scotty to Bi to Yak to everybody needs these two guys. Everybody needs the space that these two guys provide, Grady and IQ. But you think to yourself, and you're like, okay, Grady IQ, Colby LaMelo, Colby White and LaMelo Ball, Grady and IQ. Like there is a difference. There is a difference. Even if you go further and you say, okay, Ben Mathurin and Darius Garland, right? There is a difference. There's a huge difference. Now, I'm not saying go Steph Curry, Klay Thompson in their prime. I'm not saying that, but just like two guys who are minimally disruptive, but are just slightly better, a little less, of a cap poison pill. That would be great for the Raptors, I think. But anyways, the Raptors put together a pretty competent win here. In the members live, what I want to go through, as I mentioned earlier, was outcomes, realistic outcomes. These outcomes will include, but are not limited to, falling down the standings, entering the play-in, exiting the playoffs completely, and falling out of the play-in, and therefore entering the lottery as like the 12th or 13th team. They will include climbing up to the second seed potentially and having to face a team like Charlotte or Miami or Orlando in the first round. And all of these outcomes will be ranked. That's what I want to do in the members live. I thought it would be a fun episode. And I think that it would be a vital episode. Yeah, sometimes film breakdowns are very vital because I see something that's happening over and over again and I want to point it out. Sometimes an analytics breakdown is valuable because I see a certain number or a certain trend and it's just like, okay, this is really important. I think next week for the members live, I would like to look at Brandon Ingram's game winners and fourth quarter possessions and see what the Raptors can do to put him in better positions. But for this week, I desperately want to look at what is the target, what is the aim, and what does success look like for the Raptors. So I'm going to work on that video for about an hour and change. Any thoughts on Markelle Fultz? Full disclosure, still very, very much in pen dance mode, dude. I'm still writing thank you emails to everybody. We're still, doing wrap-up meetings. We're still doing, processing of video, audio, doing a whole bunch of shit. We have to process pictures. There's so much shit, and I am so disorganized right now, and the whole house is backwards. So, yeah, I have not been super NBA conscious. So if there's some major story in the NBA, I definitely know about it, but I do not know what is going on with Markelle Fultz. So what is going on with Markelle Fultz? Can you please tell me before I get out of here? What is going on with Markelle Fultz? I'm just happy to potentially see the Raptors in the playoffs. It'll give us valuable information. I think a lot of people right now are feeling like they already have the information. They don't need to see this. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of like what a lot of people are feeling right now. You can let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Am I stretching it, or is that how you're feeling? Because I feel like that's how a lot of people feel right now. I think a lot of people feel like I don't need to watch this team to know. I don't need to watch the team go into the playoffs to know what it's going to look like. He's on the 905. Oh, that's dope. I'm a huge Markelle Fultz guy. I'm a huge Markelle Fultz fan. That is a pleasure to find out that he is playing for the 905. That's super cool. That's dope. One day, man, Markelle Fultz and Mo Bamba will be actualized in the NBA, and then we will have a true dynasty on our hands. Watch Scotty take that offensive leap during the playoffs, says the Pinecone person. You better pray that doesn't happen because I'm going to be so insufferable if that does happen. You'll notice I've been very, very quiet. Yeah, Penn Dance has given me a chance to miss some of the worst basketball of the season for Scotty Barnes, and I'm very thankful to this film festival for that. Very thankful because if I had to sit here defending him, averaging 15 points per game over 6 games, I really thought I would lose my mind, but thankfully, a little bit, the number's been off. Anyway, I'm gonna go work on that members live. Shout out to all of you, man. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I realize we were very inconsistent with video content and shit, and we're gonna have to build the views up because a lot of people, when they don't, I was researching something today. This is very interesting. I want to share one last thing with y'all today. Do you know that content creation is no longer about retention? At least it's not completely about retention. Content creation now is about consistency and social proof and credibility. So that's what it comes down to is social proof, credibility, and that is very important, right? So when you are consistent every single day and you come prepared with all the facts, that is going to build a lot of credibility and a lot of social proof, right? When you get things wrong consistently, when you're lazy with the facts, when you don't come prepared, that's when you lose social proof because nobody wants to be watching a video for an hour where someone is telling them a whole bunch of things that could be inaccurate that they have to verify themselves. I think people prefer to listen to people who are genuinely well known. I listen to a YouTuber named Nisha. She is incredible. She offers a ton of financial advice, and even though I have a CFA, I find it very interesting to listen up to her. You know, and I was thinking like how much AI right now is changing everything. It's changing everything in terms of how we generate content, in terms of how we interact with technology, but also in terms of what we want from our technology. And I think most of us just want answers. I think most of us want answers. I don't think most of us are nearly as starved for entertainment as we were like 10, 15 years ago or, distraction. I think we're entering a pretty conscious place in the world right now where people genuinely just want to know, am I okay? What's going on? And I think Pensare Basketball has to step into that as a better version of itself. Now, I mentioned this many, many times earlier, before Pendance, that after Pendance was wrapped, and believe me, it's still not wrapped, that I wanted to take this channel to another level and I wanted to show up as the best version of myself. And I fully intend to do that. My girlfriend and I were talking about ways to do this, because obviously when I go full Pendance, that's our basketball drops off. When I go full filmmaking mode, everything drops off. When I go full Pensare Basketball, Pendance and Pensare Films drop off. So it's like, how do you show up as three different people running three different enterprises and make them all successful? Kenneth Lau saying you have a CFA? Yes, I do. So this is where organization is going to come in. This is where me showing up as the best version of myself every single day is going to come in. Over the last week, I have done so many firsts. It is ridiculous. I have taken 8 different meetings for Pendance over the last week, which is unheard of. If you know me at all, you know that the week after Pendance, I play video games and I vegetate. I do not want to do anything. I am physically exhausted. And even right now, I am emotionally exhausted. A lot of shit happened mentally, emotionally. A lot of friends kind of just fell off. Team members have left. There's been a bit of a controversy around this AI thing and how I dealt with it. It's been a huge, huge emotional thing. There are people who have known me for 3 years that simply put, just boom, turned their back and said, nope, I've known you for 3 years. You're this great person. But now I see this thing on social media and you are this other person. And that is something that I'm going to have to process probably in therapy a year from now as I think about how people that I've known for this long could believe something so stupid. My girlfriend said the other day that I do my best work when I'm angry. I am not angry. I am not angry. I'm fed up. I am very fed up. I'm fed up of doing less than I'm capable of. I'm fed up of achieving less than I'm capable of. And I'm fed up of making excuses for myself. And no, I run 3 things is not an excuse to fail at any one of them. If you want to fail at one of them, then don't do 3 things. And that's the way I see it. So you're going to get the best of me on this channel going forward. From I want to say about Wednesday onward, you can expect the best of me. You can expect detailed video breakdowns. You can expect detailed prospect breakdowns. You can expect detailed draft coverage, educated, guests and panelists coming on. You can expect the best of me to continue on the panel. If you are a person who follows player's choice, I intend to be a better version of myself there. And if you are a person who is watching with a partial interest in what Penn Dance is going to be next year, you can definitely expect that I'm going to be the best of that too. Because you know what? It has taken me an entire month of morning affirmations, deep meditation, journaling, thinking out loud. And I've been thinking to myself, you're pretty great. You're pretty fucking great. I don't know who the fuck over the last 5 years has convinced me that I don't deserve better, or that I don't deserve more, or that I don't deserve all the sponsorships in the world, or that I don't deserve more members, or I don't deserve more subscribers, or I don't deserve to work harder. But honestly, it's been debilitating. It started out as like a sort of like false modesty, and it just became like this crippling self-doubt. It was like every time I would think about doing something or reaching out for something or trying to do something really ambitious, there would always be this idea of like, who are you to aim for that? And I was like, where did this loser ass mentality come into me? You know what I mean? Like, where the fuck did this loser ass mentality come into me? No, I am good at what I do. I've been good at a lot of things that I've been doing for most of my life, but I believe that I am now ready to try and be great. I'm not okay just being good at podcasting. I want to be great at podcasting. I'm not good. I'm not good with just running one of the better film festivals in the world. I want to run the best film festival in the world. And I don't care if I ever do or not. I just want to do it. I want Penn Dance to be the best film festival in the world. And I'm going to say it every single day. I'm going to say it every single day until it comes true. And I want this to be the best podcast in the world. I don't just want this to be the number one Raptors podcast. That would be great. But no, I want this to be the best basketball podcast in the world. And we have to make meaningful steps towards that outcome. And we have to do it. It's so easy to it's so easy to down yourself, man. It's so easy to aim for less. Don't do that. Aim for more. Let's keep aiming for more. Let's rise together. That's what I said at Penn Dance, to the Penn Dance people. We're going to rise for you. We're going to rise with you. And that's what I say to PENSARE basketball people is we're going to rise for you. We're going to rise with you. And I don't give a fuck if I sleep 5 hours the rest of the year. I'm doing this. I am doing this with 100% of my heart, 100% of my conviction. I feel like I'm clapping back right now. I'm like, clap, clap, clap. Oh man. Because, and I'm gonna say this is gonna sound really condescending and really, kind of like egotistical, but I mean this in the best way. I think I said this once before. I definitely wrote it in a story for PENSARE basketball a couple of weeks back. One day, say this, one day, the people who doubted you will be telling their grandkids how they used to know you. Peace.